Here's more on ascribed status. There are many ascribed statuses. You didn't choose where you were born. You didn't choose the color of your skin. You didn't choose whether to be male or female. There's a lot that you didn't choose about your life. It is just how society and culture sees you. And so where you are born is not a matter of choice. What your gender is, in most cases, is not a matter of choice. And so that's the characteristic, that's the defining characteristic of an ascribed status, that they are given to you by society. Other ascribed statuses can be your health condition. So for example, if you are in sociology, we talk about the difference between ascribed status and achieved status. Your status is how society sees you, how you are seen in your culture. And so, for example, we talk about gender, males and females. And so when somebody looks at you, they immediately see whether or not you are male or female. And if you were in an international airport, they would see what color your skin is, for example. My skin happens to be lighter, and I'm guessing your skin is a little bit darker. And so that's something people would see about you. I'm a little bit older, you're a little bit younger. So immediately when you see me, you see my status as an older person, and I would see your status as a younger person. So social status is how people see you, how society sees you. That's ascribed status. So, two kinds of statuses, ascribed status and achieved status. We've discussed ascribed statuses a bit. Now let's talk about achieved statuses. What you're doing right now is earning a certificate, another pathway to getting a degree. And so this is something you're earning. It's a status when you get it, but it will be something that you earn. Another example of that is getting married. Not everybody gets married. That's an achieved status, to be married. You achieve that. Another example of an achieved status would be getting a job and getting a promotion at your job. Those there are things that you achieved. Being an athlete is an achieved status. Not everybody plays football. Some people have to practice very hard and they get good at playing football. That's an achieved status. As we have discussed, socialization is a lifelong process. One interesting term is anticipatory socialization. This is where, as an individual, you look at others playing roles that you know that you are going to take one day or would like to take one day. So, for example, if you are a worker in an organization, you might look up at your superiors, your supervisors, and see how they are dressing, how they are acting, and how they respond to situations. And so what you're doing is anticipating taking that role someday. We call this anticipatory socialization. And so all of us do that as children. We look up at our parents and anticipate perhaps taking that role someday. But other roles can be. Cultural evolution is the concept that cultures have been around on this planet for tens or even hundreds of thousands of years. And they have gone through various stages. The longest stage by far is the stage of hunting and gathering, where humans lived in very small groups of 50 to 150 individuals, all of whom were related in some way, and they lived a nomadic lifestyle, moving around by the seasons and by the availability of animals to hunt. We spent most of human existence in that stage, probably up until the last 10,000 years or so, when we began evolving into more complicated forms of social organization. In the next video, I'll talk about those. In the meantime, thanks for listening. On the topic of ascribed status, I want to talk about a new term, and that term is stigma. A stigma is a devalued social status. And so we can talk about the process of stigmatization. Whenever you see an English word with ation on the end, it means the process of. So socialization means the process of being socialized into one's culture, an ongoing lifelong process of learning to be a member of your culture. And so stigmatization is the process of a culture defining a certain status to be undervalued or devalued. For example, being COVID positive in some cases can be a stigma. That is, people stigmatize being COVID positive. That's not good, but that's how it is. All statuses in a society or a culture can be stigmatized in various ways. Some are more stigmatized than others, and some are simply just devalued. The problem in most cultures is that it is those in power who can determine whether or not a certain status carries devaluation or stigmatization. We need to be aware of the various privileging forces in a culture, forces which are able to define certain statuses as positive or negative, to be devalued or not devalued. All cultures have similar statuses which are devalued, and we need to consider those as we move further. One of the things that is characteristic of sociology is that we look at the world as a whole. We look at the entire planet, and we look at human existence from its very beginning, far back tens of thousands of years ago. And we try to look also into the future and try to imagine what human cultures will be like in the future. This is what some sociologists would call the sociological imagination, learning to look at things in the largest possible context whenever appropriate. Given this, the idea of cultural evolution is particularly interesting and important. And in the next video, I'll expand on the idea of cultural evolution and explain the various stages that cultures can go through over a long period of time. This next term I want to talk about is very important. It's called master status. A master status is typically an ascribed status, but it can also be an achieved status. Let me give examples of both. Master status as an ascribed status is, for example, being a refugee. That is something people see when they see you. They know that you are a refugee, and that is an ascribed status. Privileging social forces gave you that status, and there's nothing that you can do about it at this point. It is given to you. It's ascribed. An example of a master status that is achieved is when I got my PhD, when I became Dr. Tom Arcaro. That was an achieved status. And in certain social contexts, that's my master status. I am Dr. Arcaro. So master status is an important concept, and we need to understand that master status is how society is defining you. And so when they find out that I have a PhD, then people see me differently. When people find out that they only know my name, but they don't see my picture, they find out I'm old, they look at me in a different way. Society sees old people differently than they see young people. My age is an ascribed status. My PhD is an achieved status, and either of those can be my master status in certain social situations. And so in some social situations, people dismiss me as being unimportant because I'm old and I can't have an impact on society anymore. And so that's a negative social status. These last several videos have been about the relationship between the self and society, And indeed, this is one of the main themes of all sociological theorists and sociologists. The idea is that we are, as our culture or the global world defines us to be. The interrelationship between ourself and society is one that is continually evolving, and we can't control how society sees us. We can only control how we present ourselves to society. We call that impression management. But our statuses, most of our statuses, are ascribed to us. That is, the larger society, the larger culture, even global culture, defines us that way. Master status is something that is given to you by the people around you. It is what they see first when they see you. So, for example, when you are in a situation where you're walking around and people see the logo of the organization you work with on your shirt or on your vest, when people see that, they see the first thing they see is that, oh, you work for MSF, for example, or some other organization, and that gives you a certain status. The emphasis is that it gives you a certain status. That's how people see you. And so in other contexts, when you are off work and aren't wearing that logoed t-shirt or vest, then people see you maybe because you're male or female. That's the first thing they see when they see you. That's master status. Part of understanding the concept master status is by using the phrase taking the role of the other. That means I imagine what you see when you see me. I have to put myself in your place. I take your role. And what are you seeing when you see me? And so your master status is what other people see when they see you. So you have to, in your mind, you have to take their role. You have to put yourself in their place and see how they see you. And sometimes you can't control, and most of the time, you can't control how people see when they see you. And so master status, although you can earn things or are given things, it is all pivoting around the idea of how other people see you. So you have to take the role of the other and see how they see you. Part of understanding the concept master status is by using the phrase taking the role of the other. That means I imagine what you see when you see me. I have to put myself in your place. I take your role. And what are you seeing when you see me? And so your master status is what other people see when they see you. So you have to, in your mind, you have to take their role. You have to put yourself in their place and see how they see you. And sometimes you can't control, and most of the time, you can't control how people see when they see you. And so master status, although you can earn things or are given things, it is all pivoting around the idea of how other people see you. So you have to take the role of the other and see how they see you.